Hey, what's going on, guys? So we finally got the latest patch for Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, and it is basically the kind of update people were hoping to see after launch. The first set of fixes is the kind of thing most players will appreciate even if they do not notice it. Multiple save and load issues have been addressed, and that alone is the sort of thing that can save a run from becoming a headache. They also fixed localization issues for simplified Chinese, Italian, and Arabic, which is important because translation problems and broken dubbing can make a story-heavy game feel way less polished than it should. On top of that, there was a dubbing problem affecting voice playback and cutscene visuals in localized versions, and that has been sorted too. Performance and stability both got improved, which sounds broad, but in a game like this, in a game that usually means fewer weird crashes, fewer stutters, and a generally smoother experience overall. They also corrected multiple lighting issues indoors and in caverns, which matters more than people might think because that is where a lot of atmosphere lives in a game like this. If the lighting is off, the whole mood of an area gets thrown off. There are a few fixes in the general section that feel very specific in a good way. The El Tiburon fight now has added hints for players who are not quite sure how to break his defense, which is the sort of thing that keeps a boss encounter from turning into confusion instead of challenge. They also fixed a double jump issue tied to the advanced parkour option, so that movement system should behave a lot more like people expect it to. And the PC fix for custom graphics settings locking cutscenes to 30 FPS is probably one of the most talked about fixes in the whole update, because that kind of frame rate mismatch is the sort of thing players notice instantly. You can be cruising around at a smooth frame rate during gameplay, then hit a story scene, and suddenly the pacing feels off. That issue should be gone now, and for a lot of people, that is going to make the game feel way more consistent from one moment to the next. Gameplay-wise, this patch hits a bunch of those how did this even happen problems. Players clipping into the ship's hull while swimming has been fixed, which sounds funny until it happens to you and you are stuck fighting the game instead of the ocean. They also fixed a lockout that could happen if you tried moving immediately after exiting a minigame, and that kind of input bug is the sort of thing that makes players think the game is ignoring them for no reason. Allies stopping movement after an assassination, getting stuck while harpooning if boarding starts right after, civilians wandering into brawl zones, and being unable to dodge the fatal humpback whack whale tail slap during harpooning have all been addressed too. That last one sounds especially absurd if you've been unlucky enough to run into it. I imagine the fix feels great. They also fixed the issue where aiming would not return properly after being hit while using rope dart or smoke bomb, and they repaired the Jackdaw disappearing after upgrading it while docked, which is one of those bugs that sounds almost comically bad until you realize somebody could have loaded in and found their ship just gone. Edward's hands no longer freeze during the minigame either, so even the little animation weirdness got attention. The world fixes are actually really nice because they point to the team paying attention to how the game feels as an open space, not just how it functions as a checklist of missions. Animus wall issues have been fixed, fast travel problems have been cleaned up, and several places players were reaching that they were never supposed to access have been closed off. The weather system now properly allows fog again, which might seem like a minor thing until you remember how much mood and visibility matter out on the water. Floating bushes have been grounded, and the weather balancing has been tweaked to increase the amount of sun and clear skies. That means the Caribbean should spend a bit more time looking like the Caribbean and a bit less time getting stuck in odd weather states. There is also a nice little sense here that the patch is trying to restore the intended rhythm of exploration, sailing, and roaming around the map without the game doing strange things in the background. Those are the kinds of fixes that do not always get big attention, but they absolutely shape how polished the world feels when you are actually playing. Then there is the UI and menu side, which is where annoying friction can pile up fast if it is not fixed. One issue where players could get stuck on the desynchronization screen by repeatedly opening and closing the menu has been taken care of, and that is the type of bug that can turn a simple pause into a full restart. They also fixed location activity icons on the map disappearing after rebooting the game, which is exactly the sort of thing that makes navigation and completion hunting more frustrating than it needs to be. These are not glamorous fixes, but they matter because UI bugs hit players constantly. Every time you open the map, every time you hop into a menu, every time you back out of a screen, you are relying on that layer to be solid. When it is not, the whole experience starts to feel messy. So while these changes may not sound exciting on a feature list, they are the kind of cleanup that helps the game feel dependable instead of temperamental. The visual and audio fixes are more subtle, but they still matter a lot, especially in a game that sells itself on atmosphere. There were minor graphical issues cleaned up, a visual problem with some hideout ship models fixed, character clipping improved, clothes clipping improved, and texture issues on some side characters corrected. That means less awkward popping through geometry, fewer strange costume glitches, and a world that just holds together better when you are moving through it. On the audio side, the single body drop sound bug is fixed, so killing one enemy should no longer sound like a whole pile of bodies, hail of bodies hitting the floor at once. That sounds almost silly until it happens during stealth or combat and completely throws off the scene. Audio is one of those things people do not always notice when it is right, but they definitely notice when it is wrong. Fixing that sort of issue helps the game feel more grounded, even if you are sailing around as a pirate assassin. The quest fixes are probably the most important part for anyone actually in the middle of a playthrough, because this is where a broken trigger can stop everything cold. Rift Wayward Desires now properly handles the second zipline if you fall from the first, which is the sort of thing that can ruin momentum in a mission if it goes wrong. Imagine my surprise and the commander's ruse no longer block each other from being completed at the same time. The other brother no longer lets Upton be assassinated early, which is exactly the sort of sequence issue that can collapse a mission chain. The observatory now brings allies in together with Roberts as intended, and a governor no longer traps players behind an animus wall and prevents progress. That last one is the kind of bug that can stop a run dead, so seeing it fixed is a big deal. These quest repairs are the heart of the patch for anyone pushing through the story, because nothing kills a good session faster than getting stuck in a mission that refuses to move forward. So overall, this update feels like Ubisoft doing the responsible thing and cleaning up the game in a pretty serious way. It is not trying to reinvent anything, and it is not packed with new systems, but it does address a lot of the stuff that could get in the way of actually enjoying the remake. Save issues, cutscene frame rate problems, ship bugs, weather weirdness, UI lockups, clipping, audio problems, and quest progression failures all got attention here. That is the kind of patch that may not sound exciting when you first read it, but once you start loading into the game and everything just behaves more normally, you feel the difference right away. For a game like this, that matters a lot more than adding noise for the sake of looking busy. When the world is supposed to feel alive, stable systems and clean progression are what let the whole thing breathe properly.